Hi, and welcome to this special show, Season 2. I am your host, Jim Hunter, and boy did I have a strange dream last night. I dreamt that I was the High Judge in the Court of United Humanity, and I had to resolve all the issues in the Ukrainian crisis. So here I present a facsimile of the dream, tidied up a bit and probably a bit more consistent than the original dream was. Take care. Hear ye, hear ye. The court is in session. First we must hear exactly what the issues are, in order to be able to resolve them. To that end, I give the word to Astra Vasilieva, who is Ukrainian, after all.
Thank you, Mr. President. To be clear, I am merely of Ukrainian descent, and I only visited the country once. I visited Kiev, Lviv and Odessa over a course of 3 weeks in total. Only my grandparents are Ukrainian-born. All of my grandparents, that is. But Ukraine was invaded and now civilian targets are being bombed. Civilians are being killed. It is to stop. The Russian forces must remove themselves from the country in full and completely.
Okay. But what were the forces doing there in the first place?
Sir, if I may. The narrative is that the Ukrainian government is deeply neo-Nazi and has been committing genocide against the Russian-speaking population. The invasion is a special military operation to liberate Ukraine from Nazis. While in reality this is of course not the case. Russia wants to profile itself as a power of great import. A re-establishment of a great empire, so to speak. And at the same time, it feels threatened by the military power of NATO, expanding further eastward. And with Ukraine appealing to joining NATO, this is cutting off the sphere of influence of Russia on the rest of Europe, and it does not want it to happen.
All things fine and dandy, but why doesn't Russia engage in dialogue then? What's with the fake story about the Nazis? Because the invasion had to be sold to the Russian population. There is no animosity between regular Russians and regular European citizens whatsoever. At the same time, the troops of the invasion force were coerced into fighting under the guise of exercises. Most of the troops are just young conscripts. They have no idea what they are doing in Ukraine. That's interesting. So I am hearing 3 narratives already. One is that the invasion is a military operation to liberate Ukraine from the Nazis. That seems a little contrived, to say the least. If this were the case, why didn't Russia appeal to the United Nations for support in this expedition? And how do you expect your army to fight with vigor and determination if you don't tell them what the hell they are supposed to be doing? How do you expect loyalty by telling obvious lies? And what about that NATO threat? NATO is a defensive alliance. There is no imperialism in NATO, it makes no sense. All of this is based on paranoia.
Well, I couldn't agree more. But why don't we look into the field and see where this all began?
What a wonderful day. I truly find my freedom here on Blueberry Hill.
Yes, Mr. Poopy. Quite so. When you are asleep and dreaming, you are not a very short man.
Why did you remind me of my short stature? No one is allowed to know. I throw you in Gulag.
Haha! You have all the money in the world to get anything you want. But inside your tiny body, the world is like a prison. Everybody is laughing at your miniature appearance. And you are president of a lowly shadow of a once great and menacing empire. Not much to bring to the table.
Russia is great. I have the population well under control.
Oh yes, of course. The greatness of a country is measured by enforcing crowd control. We are not at all looking at wealth distribution and happiness indexes. No, Mr. Poopy. You have it all wrong. You could have gone down in history as a leader who united people with economic endeavors, daring projects to build a better, brighter future for the whole world, in renewable energy, space exploration, environmental engineering to reintroduce and increase biodiversity. You could have been a great man, despite your short stature. People could have embraced you, carried you on their shoulders, even though you are very, very tiny.
I have enough of you.
So? You are going to shoot me now? Wait. Hey, I didn't.
So, you think that Mr. Putin is simply trying to compensate for his short man syndrome? Really? People have to suffer for that?
It's insidious. He has a short stature but an overbloated ego. And he projects his frustrations onto the world. The only question which remains is, why do people keep humoring him?
So what do you suggest we do?
If I may, sir, never bow down to another person's paranoia. It is a recipe for disaster. Paranoia leads to self-fulfilling prophecies of the worst kind. That combined with incessant projection makes for a very toxic political landscape. Never ever bow down to another person's paranoia.
You look lovely tonight, sweet Cassandra.
Was that interruption necessary? We are in the middle of something.
Yes, Cal. That was not necessary. Please stick to the subject.
Anyway, I am of the opinion that Russia withdraw its troops, unconditionally. Putin should just spin a story that his goals were achieved, and then start a project to rebuild good relations with Europe through honest goodwill enterprises, starting with rebuilding the damage done to Ukraine. The sanctions must be lifted, of course. The normal Russian population must not suffer from the actions of one man. Does Putin understand how quickly the world's opinion about him can change if he changes his stance and opens his heart to the love he so much craves for? We know from history that it is wishful thinking that people will change like that. But that would truly show the world how big he can be. And I mean big. Real big. A change of stance, to make Russia exemplary for a regime that changed itself, that revolutionized itself to shed the pains of old burdens. Theoretically it can be done. However,
I kind of don't think that that's going to happen. He is cornered in his madness. There doesn't seem to be a realistic way out.
the samurai had a solution for a broken ego. When the honor was compromised, there was only one way out.
Why is this show turning darker by the minute?
Scorched earth and be hated forever in the history books. Or take the pail and be remembered as having conscionably chosen for humanity after all.
Well, that was dark. But hey, sometimes the dream is but a dream, isn't it? Thanks for watching, and who knows, see you next time.